Hello, everyone. It's Laviniamasters here, and I am ready to come to you and share with you, hopefully, some tidbits of wisdom, something to help you throughout your day. Happy Friday, February the 9th, hopefully, to help you throughout your weekend. I entitled this one, Check Your Connections. Check Your connections. And I came up with this because I thought about the time that I went to South Africa to speak with DNA for Africa. And I remember going as I prepared for South Africa. I had never traveled to South Africa. So I had my concerns on how I should travel. I remember calling one of our sponsors that were bringing us over there for that time period. And I asked them, how is South Africa? How do I, basically, I wanted to verify what do I need to bring? How do I need to dress? How to be accordingly or in accordance with how to perform in South Africa. Because, you see stuff on TV and everything is not always like it seems. And what he told me was, Lavinia, is just like you in America. Okay. So I took that literally. Okay. So in America, I can bring all of my stuff from my hair, my normal makeup, my clothing, all that good stuff. So I'm good. I'm set. I trusted him. He lived over there. He said, it's just like you are in America. Well, what happened was when I got to South Africa, what I decided to do, because I didn't really know the climate, tried to understand the climate better, I decided to do a hair piece, like a quick weave, because I didn't want to have to always get up every day styling my hair, because while I was there, we had several engagements, several different countries we would fly to and different things. And so I'm not that, I don't know if many of you noticed, I'm not that glamour girl. I don't do a lot of makeup. I like to do my hair one way. I'm done with it. I don't have time for that. I'm just not that. I've never been that. I like to look nice, but I'm not that always into just making sure my makeup has to be right. My this, my that. I just want to look professional, presentable, and conservative as I am. So I took my normal flat iron, I took a curling iron, and I did what they call a quick weave, which is something, no, it wasn't a quick weave. It was a wig that I had created from my hair, because I didn't want to deal with my hair. My hair is natural, and and I don't want to further damage it. So the wig, I had it created and formed and bought the hair, and it was a special design wig that I had for me. Well, in the process of wearing this wig to South Africa, going through customs, they asked me, was there anything removable? And I was like, yeah, my wig, and so it was like, could you remove it? And I didn't think literally they were going to have me remove my wig. So when they removed my wig, they did like a search of it, and it kind of like had my hair on in a frenzy. So at that moment, I was like, you know what? I'm just traveling from through the airport. So I'm not going to worry about it now. I'll just wear my natural hair down. But I wanted my hair presentable when I did my presentations. So I get ready to go, get to my hotel, do my presentations. And I'm assuming, because everything is like America, that the outlets were the same. Well, come to find out, the outlets were not the same as they were in America. So when I tried to plug in my curling irons and my flat irons, um, one of them had shorted out. And I was like, oh my God. So I called hotel staff, and they were like, oh, because of this and the voltage, and we can change it out, but it'll be this long. And I'm like, no, I have to get ready to prepare myself in the morning, because it'll be like the next day afternoon. And like I said, we were flying to different countries there, and I know I'll be flying out. I said, that's not going to work. I was a little bit flustered, and I said, the next stop, I think we were going to be there like 2 or 3 days. I said, I'll do all of that then. But on this particular stop, I had to tough it out with my natural hair again, or wear the wig that was all frayed, and kind of out of order. I don't remember what I did, but anyway, the long story short was I didn't really validate or check my connections. I went by word of mouth, and even though I went by word of mouth, I still didn't really validate, because I didn't go into detail of those things that I needed to know about the straightening iron or the outlets to utilize my straightening iron. I was a little bit frustrated. I was very frustrated because I didn't check my connections. And so it caused damage to my equipment that I owned. It caused damage to the outlet, which they excused because they understood that I was not from there. Uh, and I had to take away from that a lesson learned that from now on, whenever I travel, I'm going to be more specific in my questions and how I ask, certain things, especially if I feel that it's important to me or the presentation of me or the representation of who Lavinia Masters is. And that's by checking my connections, verifying things. So, how did it benefit me? Was the question that I asked myself. How did it benefit me? Because, for one, it was a lesson learned, a very valuable lesson learned, because those that know the products that we purchase for our hair to straighten or curl or whatever, those products can be expensive at times. It benefited me because it gave me a new self-awareness about things to really prepare. That preparation is more than just what it seems like on the outside. My outside appearance is more detailed than what it looks. You see me now, but it was more time, or should have been time spent in preparing for this moment to be where I'm at or to look how I'm looking. It caused damage. Did it cause damage in the process? Yes, I said it caused damage to the curling iron, to the outlet. It caused damage to me because in a sense, I was kind of emotionally scarred because I wanted to wear. That's why I spent the money on the hair wig, because I wanted to wear it. I wanted to be presentable and nice looking when I went to South Africa to present to different. We did media outlets, we did radio outlets, we did colleges, we did magistrates, we did legislation, we did all of this stuff. And I'm traveling and I'm speaking, and I wanted to be presented as such and how I wanted to be presented. And so it caused like an emotional emotional damage to me, from emotional scar. And you guys know that when you have emotional scars, sometimes it messes with your whole outlook and how you look at things. And then before you start, it ticks away at things like, am I presentable? Am I worthy enough to stand before it? It questions a lot about you that it really shouldn't, but it does, because that's our human nature. And did it, I mean, and did I waste my time doing the process? At first, I was like, this was a waste of time to even bring this. I should have just brought my wig, left it alone, and just went about my business. But then in the end, I said, no, it wasn't a waste of time, because it was indeed a very valuable lesson in not checking my connections. Applying that to our everyday life of checking our connections, I've learned in doing the work that I do, that there were moments in time that I didn't check my connections. The people that wanted to connect with me, that wanted to work with me, that wanted to get involved with me, that saw visions beyond visions and saw dreams beyond dreams and saw things that they knew that you can do with you, wanted to connect with you. But I didn't validate. I didn't verify. I went by word of mouth. I went by assumptions. A lot of times we have intuitions. We have something that's saying, you know what, you may want to, but you don't. You don't do it. And a lot of times you pay. There's a price to pay for not listening and for not validating, for not checking those connections. I remember one was very valuable to me. And I'm not going to go into detail because I'm not one to put people on blast or try to hurt anybody. And I've had several instances. But this one disappointed me so, because their vision was for them to do things one certain way, and that was not my vision. And I was very uncomfortable when I did this the way they wanted it done. And I also allowed them to do some rewriting of my talk, which I was not a proponent of. And I allowed them to do it anyway, because for some reason, I think no, there's no reason. I minimize myself. I minimize my abilities and what I can do. And I put more stock into this individual and trusting what they can do to make me look greater and bigger and better at what I do. And to me, I got awful wrong, because in the end, when I got ready to present the presentation, it was a flop, because what I had prepared in what I wanted to say and what I knew had to be said, when I got to that space, things were changed up and I couldn't go back. So I looked as if I was, to me, incompetent. I looked to myself as if I didn't know what I was talking about. I looked like I was rehearsed. I looked like I was not ready. I was not prepared. This was not my gift. This was not my field. This is not what I was called to do, to speak and empower and have the knowledge and the know-how, knowing that this is something that I have. But because I didn't check my connections, it allowed almost like a windfall or downfall of emotional damage that just trickled down on me and caused so much more in my self-confidence and how I looked at myself and how I spoke and how I viewed my own self. And to me, it was a flop. It was a total flop. It was recorded and it was put out there for all eternity on the internet. And to this day, I despise that it's out there because I'm like, that's not me. And you know why it's not me? Because I didn't check my connections. I didn't check the people that I had been involved with, the people that were there to help me. My point of saying all of that is sometimes when we don't check our connections, some things can cause more damage than harm. I mean, more damage than good to us, can cause more harm to us than good. Is it intentional? A lot of times that's still debatable. I hate to think that this was an intentional thing that happened to me with that speech that I'm talking about. I don't think, I know it wasn't intentional with when Dr. Oliver said that everything was fine, because I didn't go into detail and asking him the questions about the outlets, because I knew that I used hot combs and straightening combs and curling irons in my hair. He didn't know that. Did it cause any damage? Yes, it caused damage. To me, it caused damage to my ego. It caused damage to my self-worth. It caused damage to my emotional. It stressed me out. It frustrated me. It irritated me. But I had to come back from that, and I had to bounce back. And I had to get back into that space of realizing that that is a lesson learned. A very valuable lesson, but it was a lesson learned. And that's what I want to speak to someone today. And I want somebody to understand, when you go through things, or you are faced with things or people that you connect with, and you don't validate, or you don't verify, or you don't get a good understanding of why they're connecting with you, sometimes things may not go the way that you pan them out to be. But make sure, the responsibility to me falls on you. That was my responsibility. So I really couldn't get mad at anybody but myself, even with the speech situation. So I had to learn to eat that up and take it as a lesson learned. Because the damages that were done, a lot of times the damages that are done, you can't do anything about that. It's out of your control. But what you can do is you can move forward effectively, more positive, proving yourself that this is who I really am. This is what I really do. If the damage caused by the previous harm or the previous eras of you not checking your connections has been burnt, there's nothing you can really do about it. So don't go back trying to repair or reinstall or reconnect or hash or bash or tear somebody down or whatever you have to do because we didn't check our connections. We have to also be accountable for ourselves. A lot of times that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to be accountable for what we've done or what we've fallen into, or our shortcomings, or us being gullible, us being gung-ho, us trusting everybody because we just want to love and be there for everybody and support everybody, and everybody that surrounds me, they love me. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. That's not always true. So you have to check your connections. You have to validate the people that you work with. Honey, when they hire you on these jobs, they do background checks. I promise you they do. Some jobs, they do extensive background. I've worked in the industry of corporate America. I've worked with childcare industry. I've worked with child protective services, nonprofit, and they do some I've in corporate America, they've done FBI background checks, fingerprint, all that good stuff. They've done some extensive stuff on you. Make sure you haven't harmed any children, any kind of felt more than felt. I mean, they do some, and you have to, if you want that job, if you want that salary, you have to pass their background checks. Sometimes you think they're extensive because some jobs want personal references. Because sometimes we can pass that background check as far as how we look on paper, but then our character, how is your character? And that's what I did. I went on the positions, I went on these individuals, their clout, what they've done, what they've accomplished, their titles. I did that, but I didn't go back and check. I didn't do character witnesses. I didn't do certain things. I just didn't do because I just didn't do it. There's no excuse. And that was not fully checking my connections. And so I've learned, and now I've learned to proceed with caution when I deal with people. And it's not that I'm being funny, or not that I think I'm better than anybody, or not that I just have to do it. I just have to check my connections. I have to proceed with caution. Because now what I've learned, I knew then, but it's like you really don't grasp it, is that my whole reputation, my whole name, my whole character, my whole lifespan, my whole tour of duty is on the line. And I know how hard I've worked to get where I've come. And I know how hard I continue to work. And I know that it's not only hard because of the work I do, but because of the adversities that I face to continue to do the work that I do. So I value that. There's no price tag on who I am. There's no price tag on what I give. There's no price tag on what I represent and how I represent. To me, there's no price tag on my character. I value that. So now I proceed with caution with my connections. So I know sometimes people say, well, Lavinia was slow. Lavinia was, and I have to take time. I know I'm not always doing like a background check, but I'm watching. I'm looking. I know some people say, well, you can't check my social. Sometimes you can look at your social media. I don't judge you, but are you what I represent? Do I represent what you represent? Sometimes we can be on two different playing fields. I've done that too. Certain things I don't do, but this person does. But mutually, because I've validated and checked my connections, I know we can meet here and we can make some things work and be powerful and make an impact because it's bigger. The work that we're doing is greater. And that's my point. I know the work I do is greater than me. But I still have to check my connections to make sure I'm not damaging not only me, but damaging you or damaging the greater cause. I'm checking my connections because I want to make sure it's not a waste of time for you or me or the greater cause. I'm checking my connections because I want to make sure that it can benefit you and me, but especially the greater cause of what we're working for. Out of everything I said today, my prayer is that you learn how to check and validate your connections, that you are in the right space, that you are in the right time, that you are making the right moves. And I love people. I love everybody. I connect with a lot of people, but there are certain things I do not connect with. I will not sign off on because it doesn't, not just that it doesn't just benefit me, but it doesn't help me. And especially if it's doing more harm for the vision that I know God has called me to do. that lesson that I talked about was very valuable because it was, to me, it was very damaging. And I did not like the way it felt. I felt like, excuse my French, I felt like an imbecile as I got up to speak because I was speaking something that wasn't mine. Or if it was mine, the way they took it and they reworded it for me, it didn't sound like me. So I didn't feel authentic in my presentation. And I stumbled and I crossed over and I crossed up and I couldn't take it back. I couldn't take it back because of how the presentation was done. I need us to learn how to take care of ourselves, take care of our gifts, take care of the things that God has gifted you with, has blessed you with, to use for a greater purpose. I need you to be mindful of that. You don't have to be harsh. You don't have to be dehumanizing to others. You don't have to be little people. You don't have to get the big head and think you're greater than anybody else. There's a way to do in and everything. There's a way to talk to people. There's a way to present yourself. And if you can't communicate that, maybe reach out to somebody else to communicate for you. Maybe you can write it. Or pray about it and come back later. Let them know, let's wait. There's nothing wrong with telling people, let's pray about this before we move forward. I want to make sure this is the right thing for us to do and to do it together. But most importantly, I need you to check your connections. I need you to check your connections. I need you to be on top of who you are, and what you've been called to do. There are some things that I can't undo. And it taught me to be more responsible. That's what accountability does. It teaches you to be more responsible, be more mindful, to check your character, to check how things line up with you in your voice, to check how you are going to remain authentic in your way, in how you do things and what you say. Does it line up with me and who Lavinia is and who you are? Check your connections. Like I said, you don't have to be rude, you don't have to be nasty, you don't have to be ugly, but you can be you. You got to take care of you. You have to be the best you. That's not selfish. That's not arrogant. There's a difference between being confident and being arrogant. You have to be confident in who you are, especially if it's part of your calling. So check your connections. Don't walk into things blindly. Don't walk into things haphazardly. Don't always be gung-ho. But check your connections. No, everybody's not going to understand you. Not everybody's going to receive you. Not everybody's going to see it the way you see it. If you can't explain it where the world can accept it, that's okay. God knows your heart. He really does. It's not a cliche. You should know your heart. You know what you meant. You knew your intentions. You knew your purpose. You knew what you were set out to do and how you wanted to do it, even if it gets twisted and lost in the process. You stay focused. You stay on point. You stay grounded. And you make sure that your connections are validated. Check your connections. Talk to you later. Lavinia out. You want to reach out to me, laviniamasters@gmail.com. Go to my website, www.laviniamasters.com. I'm here for you, public speaker, consultant, advocate, whatever you need me to do, just reach out to me and I am here for you. Lavinia Masters out. Love you. Bye-bye.